Hey guys, Tom Barclay here. Just thought I'd do an update on where we're at with Ange Postecoglou and whether he has a future at Tottenham or not. Or let's be honest, more to the point, a lack of an update really. The main news is the fact that we think it's going to be at least a week or during this week is not expected to have a decision on Ange's future, which I know is frustrating for everyone. Must be particularly frustrating for Ange himself, primarily because pretty much everyone's on holiday. It appears, so obviously Ange's gone on holiday, but a lot of the decision makers have gone for some post-season vacation as well. I believe Daniel Levy might be going on holiday soon as well, if he hasn't already. Not quite sure on that one, but I think that's the case. So for everyone, we're sort of waiting on tenterhooks to find out if Ange is staying or not. It could be a while yet, and let's be honest, if they do end up deciding to stick with Ange, they probably won't announce it at all because he's obviously got a contract anyway, which quite a few of you have mentioned in the comments, as if the media are making a big deal of this. Trust us, we're not. It is very much a live issue. It's a situation that is very much in the balance, whether he stays or not. But if he does, and if the club decide to stick with him, don't expect some sort of big fanfare over it either. Because that is the way of the world, the way of the football world. But anyway, I thought I'd do a video anyway. There's a few bits and pieces I sort of wrote up on Tuesday, leading off that bit of news, but sort of relating to it and some other Tottenham bits. So I thought I'd do a video sort of rounding it all up. So off the back of that situation regarding Ange sort of being kept waiting really to find out if he is going to be backed or sacked, I suppose. I spoke to Ramon Vega, the old Tottenham centre-back, who obviously was involved in now the not penultimate trophy Spurs won, now third from most recent trophy after obviously they won in Bilbao on the week. He was one of the players who won the League Cup back in 1999. I asked him about Ange, about the board's decision, what he thought of it. He said he thought it was bizarre and disrespectful that the question is even being asked around Ange and his future, whether he should stay or not, given what he's achieved, given all the other managers who, the big name managers who would have cost a lot more money and would have spent more money, who couldn't have managed to win any trophies. The fact that it's even being asked for the guy who's finally ended the trophy drought, where, that his future is in doubt, he finds it bizarre and disrespectful, which is probably something that a lot of you guys will that message will ring true for you as well, given what Ange has delivered this season. He's urged the club to back Ange. He thinks it'd be a huge mistake if they did let him go. He sort of pointed to the fact that Ange has had a lot of injuries this season. Imagine if next season those injuries sort of start to clear up, what he could achieve. And he says it's the board's responsibility now to back him, and pointed out that the club had become a bit of a laughingstock in Ramon Vega's words before last week with the lack of success under trophies. And this is something that I guess Ange has pointed out a lot really in the last few months, how much he feels people are almost mocking Tottenham on a regular basis for their lack of success. And he feels like he's the only person sort of sticking up for them. And he's also had this narrative about people in the media, I guess more like ex-players, not really speaking up enough for Tottenham. I think Ramon Vega is one that has done, to be fair. He certainly does here, and he points out that how Ange has sort of changed that narrative. This speaks again also to what Ange said about how winning in Bilbao could be a turning point, how it can, this question mark over how serious the club can change with success, and how it can lead to more success, which he fully believes is the case if he's given that chance to continue from it. And Vega definitely in the same sort of singing from the same hymn sheet there. So really sort of impressing on the board that they need to make a decision. They need to make one quickly as well in his mind, because there's a lot of planning that needs to be done ahead of a Champions League season. It doesn't feel like the squad has been sort of strong enough, even though he said to me that a lot of the young players that were brought in are really talented. They are very young. They are very young players. They were teenagers last year. He sort of echoed Ange's call for a bit more experience to come through the door. and wants Spurs to get on with it, really. He also talked a bit about Cristian Romero. So before we go into Vega's comments on Romero himself has done an Instagram post, I believe, or a social media post, where he was sort of celebrating the triumph of Bilbao and how delighted he was. And in it, he sort of hints that he would be maybe keen to stay now. There's been a lot of talk of Romero, mainly from himself during interviews this season, where it seemed pretty clear that he's wanted to move on. He spoke publicly about wanting to play in La Liga at some point, and obviously this is the backdrop of strong interest from Atletico Madrid, who are managed by his compatriot Diego Simeone, and the kind of club where you look at the way they play, and it really does seem to suit Romero's attributes. And I did a video a little while ago after that particular interview where he talked about La Liga being somewhere he wanted to go and how he wanted to sort of look at things after the season finished. And I did a video basically saying I felt like if Spurs got the money that they deemed acceptable for Romero, be that sort of 50-60 million pounds, it would be the right call to move him on, because I feel like there's only a handful of players in the world who are good enough to keep against their will if they are wanting to leave, citing Ronaldo when Man United kept him for an extra season before he went to Real Madrid. And the fact of his injury record this season in particular hasn't been something you can rely on too much. So I felt like if you can go replace him with someone like Mark Guehi, I feel like it could be the right move. And I still think that, to be honest. But obviously Romero has proven what an absolute winner he is and what a competitor he is, and how crucial he was to Spurs getting over the line, not just against Man United in the final in Bilbao, but against Frankfurt in that second leg, and then against Bodo in the two semi-final legs as well. So there's no doubt he's a class player, and never denied that. But I just thought personally, it might be the right call for everyone, transfer-wise, if Spurs were to get the money. But I know a lot of fans pushed back on that anyway at the time, and probably more so, even more so now, given how well he's played in these absolutely pivotal matches. And yeah, back to this post. In it, he said, "I have no doubt that staying together led us to success. We must continue. This is the path." So I think a lot of fans are getting excited that sort of suggests that Romero is very much in on just all in on Spurs and wants to stay. Let's see if that plays out or not. Postecoglou himself, obviously, after the Brighton game in what was his final press conference of the season, and let's be honest, could still be his final press conference as Tottenham manager, did urge the club to keep hold of Romero. He said it was very important. He talks about him being a winner, how he elevates other players' games, and he basically hinted that they should give him a new deal. Actually, he said that the club should retain him for the long term, and I took that from him, meaning suggesting they should give him a new contract, because I believe Romero's got 2 years left on his deal. So the long term, I felt like that meant longer than just these 2 years. I asked Ramon Vega about that as well, obviously a fellow Spurs centre-back, former Swiss international. He said he agreed massively that it was very important to keep Romero. He thinks he's a brilliant player. But the point he made was that keeping Ange could be the key to keeping players like Romero and anyone else who might be thinking of a move. Because he said if you have a dressing room who respect the manager, from top to bottom, and back him, players can achieve anything. And the board need to realise this. You can have a brilliant manager. If the players don't back him, you can't achieve anything. But because of the way Ange seems to have the backing of the players, and that's very much what I understand, that players want him to stay, then it's the key factor in future success, really. There has to be this sort of cohesion amongst the dressing room between the manager and the players, which definitely wasn't the case, as Romero himself told us, myself and Matt Barlow of the Daily Mail, back in Perth a few years ago during Ange's pre-season, when he was reflecting on the season under Conte and when it all went wrong, particularly after the World Cup in Qatar. Coming back from there really seemed to be a split. between the manager and the playing staff, which obviously then played out very publicly with Conte's unforgettable and infamous press conference at Southampton a few months later. But Ange definitely seems to have that connection with the players. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, this is still football. The cynic, there's part of me that's very much, swayed by the sort of romanticism, the romantic story of Tottenham under Postecoglou, this amazing story of how badly they went in the league and the injuries they suffered and the pressure that Postecoglou was under to go all the way and end this trophy drought. But there's also the realist in me, and maybe the cynic, more the realist in me, that knows that life will go on for a lot of these players after Postecoglou goes. So even if, I understand they want to keep him, and obviously anyone we've spoken to publicly has backed Ange, I'm sure they will recover if he does leave, and they will find a new path going forward. It's not going to be the be all and end all, but it does seem like for someone like Romero, who's been quite public, I think, in his defence of Ange, and he's obviously had these little hints towards the board where he has been unhappy with certain things, whether it be, the flights back from Argentina, which he had one go at, or the perceived lack of what he thinks is a lack of investment in the squad compared to the other big rivals like Chelsea and Man City, which he talked about back in around December time. There was also a moment where I believe he retweeted a post on X, formerly Twitter, which then got deleted, basically backing Ange and how he wanted, I forget what the words were exactly, but it was something like, if Ange were to go, I don't want to say if Ange were to go, he would be off as well, but there was an element of that, a flavour of that in this tweet. So it just feels like there's a big connection between Romero and Postecoglou, who, if you might remember throughout the season, has never really criticised Romero once. I mean, you might remember a press conference, where was it? It was Alkmaar, wasn't it? It was the Alkmaar away game when Romero, I don't know if did he play in that game, but anyway, he'd just been called up to Argentina's squad, having barely played much for Spurs, and I asked Ange, what do you make of it? And he kind of bit my head off, really, to be honest, about it. First of all, he made the point that, what do you expect me to say? You know how it works with international managers. They can they can call up players, and I can't do anything about it either way. But he also then kind of went on to sort of defend Romero, which he has done relentlessly throughout the season. So there does seem to be like a bit of a connection there between those two players. And, maybe Vega's right. Maybe if Romero is absolutely essential to Spurs, Ange staying could be the difference between Romero staying on or not. But obviously Tottenham themselves will have a big role to play in that, and as will any club who's interested. First of all, they would have to stump off enough money to even make Spurs consider it, which presumably has gone up from what it might have been before after those Europa League winning performances. Just lastly, a few other things. James Maddison spoke on Tuesday. I think he was doing some sort of golf event. He's obviously injured at the moment, picked up that injury in the second leg. Second leg, was it? No, first leg, sorry, against Burda. We came off injured with a knee injury, a serious knee injury. The club still haven't confirmed what it is, but I believe it's a medial knee injury. I forget if it's his right or left leg, but Ange already sort of talks about how it was going to be a while before he would come back, and 3 months was very much the estimation of how long he'd be out for. And Maddison's talked himself about how he is basically hoping to be back for the new season. So 3 months would be about right, put him in a bit of a race to be fit for the new season. And he said on Tuesday, he said he's going to work really hard over the summer and recover, and hopefully be back for the start of next season. That is the aim. So fingers crossed Maddison's recovery goes on schedule, because obviously with Kulusevski injured, Bergvall should be okay, you'd think. Doesn't feel like he was a million miles away towards the end of the season, let alone for pre-season and obviously the start of next season. But here at Kulusevski, we're still waiting to find out how serious it is, this kneecap surgery he had, patella surgery, how long that's going to lay him low for. And even if they were fit, Maddison's obviously a key player and was playing really, really well towards the end of the season and deserves enormous credit for Spurs' Europa League win, because his brave winning of the penalty out in Frankfurt, led to the goal that's put them through. But he also produced in a lot of those games this season. I'd like to see it a bit more often in the Premier League, a bit more consistently. But I would say that he was starting to really get some consistent form towards the end of the season, which has been one of the main criticisms of Maddison ever since he got that ankle ligament injury in the mad 4-1 in Ange's first season. He struggled to get back to form anyway for quite a long time. When he did, he sort of blew hot and cold at times. But I felt like he was consistently playing well in the final sort of few months of the season. So fingers crossed, this latest injury, unfortunate as it is for him, hopefully he can come back from it well. I would be surprised if he was involved in much of the pre-season matches, though, of which one was announced by Spurs on Tuesday. It is a game that's been suggested anyway in the media that they will now be, and has now been confirmed, they will be playing Newcastle in South Korea during pre-season. The date and the venue are yet to be confirmed. But good to see Spurs going back to South Korea. I was lucky enough to go on a tour a few years ago when Conte was still there, when they play, I forget who they played now. Definitely played a K-League team out in South Korea. But, obviously the sunny effect is, you can feel it anyway when you go to the home matches, with just the amount of South Korean fans who, I imagine many of them do come all the way over from South Korea to sort of catch a glimpse of their hero in front of us. Remember one game this season where this guy was just filming Sonny the whole game, pretty much. Reminded me of, I don't know if you remember Sky Sports' old player cam, which I don't know if that's still a thing anymore, but just focus on Son the whole time. But anyway, underlined how much love there is from South Korea for Tottenham as a result of their icon playing, now being the captain and now being a trophy winner for Tottenham. And they're going back there in the summer to play Newcastle. I don't know at this point will I be going or not, but if I am, I'll definitely be doing some videos out from there. But if not, I'm sure I'll catch the game and do a review from here. Anyway, that pretty much wraps things up. Unfortunately, yeah, like I say, I'm going waiting game on Ange at this point. Let's see what else can be said this week. I may look to do some other content if I can. Maybe reflecting on the season overall. I know I obviously started this video thing at the start of the season, and it's been wonderful to see it grow and the interest that's sort of come along with all of you guys who've subscribed since. But obviously in the early days, it felt like mainly me talking to myself on camera in terms of the lack of views. But I did, right at the start of the season, when it was barely 100 views per video, I did do a predictions video, 10 predictions on the Spurs season, which I was looking back the other day, and they are pretty dreadful. I got pretty much all of them wrong, barring one, which was quite a crucial one, and even that one, there's a caveat to it. So I might, for a bit of fun, and I'm happy to poke fun at myself, might reflect on those predictions and how they planned and what happened and how it all panned out. And we can all have a laugh at how wrong I got it. But also, I suppose it speaks to how mad the season's been, how unpredictable the season went. I think a lot of us thought after that first season with Ange, as sort of, as much as the results kind of turned the second half of last season, with some of the signings that came in, particularly Solanke, maybe it was naive to think some of the younger players coming in would have had such a big impact, which they ultimately didn't really. I know Bergvall sort of established himself as a first choice player, but I don't think you can really go as far as to say any of them became like absolute stars of the league. Maybe for Spurs with Bergvall, perhaps. Maybe it was naive to think they could contribute as much as I was maybe banking on them to do. But even so, the way the season's gone, I don't think many people would have really predicted, although now you all tell me you did. Anyway, I may look to do that for a bit of fun if I have time. Anyway, that wraps up today's video. Cheers, guys.